This is the Content Marketing Podcast, episode number 238, How to Create Bingeable Content. Hello and welcome to the Content Marketing Podcast. This is the show where we help you grow your tribe and your bottom line through insanely good content. I'm your host, Rachel Parker of Resonance Content Marketing, and today is August 3rd, 2017. Hello, or as we say in Texas, howdy, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. Just a reminder, this podcast is available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play Music, so if you like what you hear, please feel free to click on over and subscribe. I also invite you to download our complimentary audio, 5 Things You Must Know About Content Marketing. Download today to learn the 5 things you absolutely gotta know to reap the benefits of a solid content marketing program. To snag your free copy, go to contentmarketinggift.com. Well, here we are in August, and Content Marketing World is just a few weeks away. And I am super excited this year because I will be serving as a moderator. So I am so excited. I got my plane booked. I got my hotel. I'm looking forward to a terrific event. So this year's event is scheduled for September 5th through 8th. For those of you in the States, those are the few days after Labor Day. As always, it is in Cleveland, Ohio, and I know that hotel rooms are getting a little sticky to try and snag. So if you are interested in going, now is the time to get your registration and get your travel plans in place. And I have a promo code that will save you $100 off your registration. Just enter the code RESONANCE100. That's all caps, RESONANCE 100. That will save you $100 off your registration. To learn more and to grab your spot today, go to contentmarketingworld.com. And in the interest of full disclosure, this is an affiliate promo code, so I do receive a small commission for every registration that uses it. Gotta let you know to keep the lawyers happy. Okay, again, that code is RESONANCE100, all caps, no spaces, and the website is contentmarketingworld.com. And if you're planning on being there, please do toss me a tweet at @RachParker. I would love to hear from you, and maybe we can grab coffee together during one of the breaks. We'll love to have some IRL in real life time with you. Okay, last week, we looked at the latest research on interactive content and how it's changing the game of content marketing. If you happen to miss that episode, feel free to check it out on iTunes or via the RSS feed. Today, we're looking at what it takes to make content bingeable and how to adapt those best practices in offering our own gems of content brilliance. But first, it's time to check in with our news feed for this week's rundown of news you can use. Just a few days ago, Facebook announced its results from the second quarter of 2017. Now, as we all know, the network now has 2 billion users worldwide, which was announced last month. I'm guessing they could not keep that news to themselves in time for the quarterly announcement. But we also know that 1.3 billion of those users are actually daily active users. And that's crazy. 1.3 billion people are on Facebook daily. That represents a 17% increase year over year from 2016. Also, we now know that 100 million of those users are members of meaningful groups. Now, I was not able to track down how they define meaningful groups. I would guess that it's maybe a group that's not tied to a specific event or a specific point in time. That's an ongoing engagement. That's just a guess on my part. But still, 100 million users of groups, that is pretty impressive. So, you know, Facebook is like the cat with 9 lives. As soon as we say it's dead and gone, then it rises up again. And we're seeing more and more interest on the B2B side. If you caught my podcast a few episodes ago, we talked about the results of the social media industry report from Social Media Examiner, and Facebook has actually surpassed LinkedIn as the #1 network for B2B brands. So, you know, if you're kind of got one toe in on Facebook, not sure if it's really if it's really going to deliver results for you, it might be time to give it a fresh look, because those are some pretty impressive numbers. Okay, speaking of LinkedIn, so LinkedIn is gradually coming into the visual content sphere, and it now allows users to select multiple images to include in a single post. So if you are posting, let's say, photos from a conference or an event or a workshop or a product announcement, you can now select multiple images to include in a single post. Now, that feature is currently now available only on the iOS app, so your iPhone and iPad, but it is coming soon to Android and to the desktop apps. So look for those multi-image posts now available on LinkedIn. Okay, our content hit of the week is called The Science of Productive Content Marketing Team Meetings. This is a post by Ade Olono. Ade, I hope I'm saying your name right. Please forgive me if I'm butchering it. And this is on the Content Marketing Institute website. So content marketing teams are an interesting bunch, because if you look at an entire content marketing team, there are a whole bunch of moving parts going on. We've got strategy, we've got SEO, we've got content creation, we've got content promotion, we've got the whole analytics side, we've got the technical side with video and audio, and there's just a lot going on. And for this reason, it's kind of hard to conduct a successful team meeting, because there are so many moving parts and so many different variables going on. So what Ade does in this post is he gives us 4 steps for making the most out of your content marketing team meetings without eating too much into your team's productive time. It is a very good read, and I will, of course, provide the link in the blog post for this episode. And you'll find that at resonancecontent.com/podcast. That is it for this week's update. If you stumble across something you think might be of interest to your fellow content marketers, please tweet it to me at @RachelParker so that we can share. Now it's time for this week's Spotlight segment, How to Create Bingeable Content. Lately, I've been hearing a lot about bingeable content in the content marketing sphere. And there's almost a paradox going on, because we keep hearing about short attention spans, keep hearing about human attention spans are now shorter than that of a goldfish, and you've got to make your point and then get out. And yet, we can easily, and when I say we, I mean human beings, can easily sit in front of Netflix for hours at a time, just taking in content. Or if you're like me, you can spend hours at a time researching a single topic on the web. So, yes, attention spans are getting shorter, but there is an opportunity to tap into this yen we have for bingeable content, and that instinct that tells us, one more episode, or I'm gonna read one more blog post about this. So speaking of Netflix, it really has elevated bingeable content to an art form. We did a little bit of binging with the whole DVR thing, and then if you are old enough to remember the VCR world, sometimes we would set our VCRs to record and then binge on a week's worth of soap operas or whatever it was that we missed at one time. But really, Netflix has made bingeable content a household term. And yes, I am not immune to the charms of Netflix. For example, my hubby and I recently discovered a series called Schitt's Creek, and that's SCHITT, Schitt's Creek, and we've been binging on it, and it's a funny thought process that goes on, because you want to watch the next episode, but then you're like, ooh, we're halfway through the season, and then once we're done, we'll have to wait for X number of months or a year. It's like, how do we ration our time with this content? So, short attention spans aside, there is a demand for bingeable content. Now, the problem is that we marketers, and I absolutely include myself in this group, we tend to think of our content in very transactional terms, in terms of the one-off blog post, the one-off white paper, the one-off ebook. So in terms of those lead generation assets, it's very transactional. Give us your email address or not in terms of the blog post, and you get your content, and then, you're on your list, you get our emails, you get our weekly newsletter, but, that's kind of it as far as that engagement on that specific piece of content goes. Now, if we're smart, we'll have a call to action that drives the person to the next stage in the funnel, but we haven't really thought about how do we make this content as part of a bingeable experience? How do we do that? How do we Netflixize this content and just keep people glued to that screen for possibly hours at a time? So I did a little research as I do, and I found some interesting insights. One of which was a post on the Content Marketing Institute website, where they talked about a speaker at the recent Intelligent Content Conference. This was a guy named Nick Edward. He is the founder and president of a company called Lookbook HQ. And he talked about an in-session bingeable content experience. And he pointed out that when people research solutions, they're not looking for a single blog post that might have a link to a white paper at the bottom of it. They want real answers to their questions, and they will actually follow their curiosity for long stretches at a time. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, Nick's company, Lookbook HQ, that's what they do. It's a platform to create what they call in-session content sequencing. And it's very interesting. I saw a screen cap of what this app looks like. So when a person, let's say, opens up a white paper or a specific piece of content, what they'll see is the currently selected content in the middle of the screen. Then in the left sidebar, they will see links to related content assets covering very similar topics or covering the same topic in a different aspect. And to the right, they'll see the next piece of related content in the order that is listed on the left. Coincidentally, that's exactly where we see that next episode coming up on Netflix. So I don't want this episode to turn into an ad for Lookbook, but they do seem to be onto something in terms of making content bingeable. So for us content marketers in the trenches, we may be in the binges. Are you in the binges right now? In the trenches, what are some of the DIY strategies that we can leverage to create a bingeable content experience? Well, the key is there are several keys, but what we want to think of is sequencing. Thinking of each piece of content not as an end in itself, but as a gateway to a more in-depth experience. So I've come up with five tactics or 5 strategies for creating that bingeable content experience. The first one is something that I know I don't even need to mention to you folks, and that is produce insanely good content. Okay, and I know that everyone who listens to this podcast are ace content marketers. You know your best practices. You are producing ridiculously, powerfully, insanely good content on a regular basis. But it is important. You know, I'm sure some brands are out there saying, okay, how do we create that bingeable experience? And they're producing crap content. Well, you know, if the product's not good, nobody's going to binge on it. They're going to see their that one post and then be on their way. And it's not about the information. Yes, the information we share has to be good, but it's got to be about the experience. Is reading that blog post, watching that video, is that a good experience that people might want to continue? When they get to the end of that video, are they going to want to see, okay, what else have they done? What else can I learn from this person? And that also goes for our ebooks and our white papers. The act of engaging with that content has got to be a good experience. Otherwise, anything else trying to make it bingeable is going to be for naught because the product is not good. It's like a bad series on Netflix. Yeah, I don't care if you're telling me about the next episode. This is crap, and I'm going to go on to something else. So produce insanely good content. That is absolutely step number 1. Step number 2 is get a handle on your content library. You already have the content you need to create bingeable experiences. You don't need to go out and create a whole bunch of new stuff just to create that bingeable experience. You have it. You probably just never thought of it in that way. In fact, last year we did an episode called Do You Need a Content Librarian? And this is one of the reasons why, yes, we do. So get a handle on that entire library. Make sure every piece of content is not only cataloged, but also grouped and tagged so that it's very easy to find content related to And what we want to do is, the way I like to think of it is we create clouds around specific topics and specific audiences that encompasses, our blog, our podcast, our videos, our downloadable assets, our webinars, all that we're doing in the content universe. We need to create clouds around specific topics, specific areas, and specific audiences. Speaking of the audience, strategy number 3 is to personalize the experience. Part of Netflix's genius is the way it uses artificial intelligence to recommend stuff that I might like. For example, I watch a lot of stand-up comedy, especially guys like Kevin Hart and Jim Gaffigan. So as soon as I pull up Netflix, I see a promo for a new stand-up comedy show. In fact, it's kind of annoying sometimes. And I was like, well, I do like other stuff. So, it needs a little work. But your audience wants that personal experience as well. And they are used to it. They're used to going on to Netflix and seeing those personal experiences. They're used to logging on to Amazon and saying, oh, this is stuff you bought in the past. Here's stuff you might be interested in currently. So go back to those audiences and do a deep dive. Look at which personas are likely to engage with what content at which stage of the buyer's journey. And that's very important. We need to know not only who we're talking to, but where are they in the buyer's journey? Are they just at that initial awareness stage? Are they just gathering information? Or are they further down where they need more detailed insights as they go through that buyer's journey, that decision-making process? Now, this is very detailed work. It's very in-depth. It can be tedious, but it's going to speak volumes about how you can better personalize your content experience. And really, a genius example of personalization is the HubSpot blog. I mean, is there any area where HubSpot is not the best practice? I have trouble finding one. But if you go to the HubSpot blog, you will see portals they have a marketing blog, they have a sales blog, and they have a customer success blog, which is content around best practices for using the HubSpot platform. And it's genius because if I'm on the marketing blog, I'm seeing content that is tailored to me as a marketer, or from the sales blog tailored to me as a salesperson. And it's also genius that they have that separate customer success blog because I might not be a HubSpot user. So as soon as I come across a blog post about, hey, here's how to use this feature in the system, I'm out of there because it doesn't apply to me. But having those portals to those specific areas, it's much more likely that I'm going to find a binge-worthy or a bingeable experience. So look at your personas, look at your buyer's journey, and figure out how you can offer a more tailored and personalized experience. Strategy number 4 is to leverage the next episode trick. So like we said, part of Netflix's genius is that next episode that comes up. So you watched an episode of, say, Schitt's Creek or Orange is the New Black, and the credits are rolling. You're just about to pack it up and go to bed. And then you see that next episode promo there in the bottom right corner that gives you a little preview, a little snackable piece of what's going to come up in that next episode. And man, sometimes it is so hard to back it up and say, nope, that's it, Netflix, that's it for today, I'm going to bed. And so, we want to know, what's going to happen next. So an easy way to leverage that is to embed in each piece of content a recommendation for the equivalent of the Netflix next episode. So it might be, hey, enjoyed this post, here's something else you might like. And or here's the next, here's how you can go deeper into this topic. And then maybe give a little 1-sentence preview of what they're going to find on the other end of that link. So we can do that at the end of the post. And just like Netflix does while the credits are rolling, finding that link to the what's next. And we can also build recommendations into the content itself. And you may see this on longer blog posts where they interrupt the content very briefly to have a quick 2-line description of a related post that gives more in-depth information. And then on some platforms, you can even get fancy and offer a preview when the person hovers over the link to that what's next piece of content. Now, that's a little more technical than I want to go into here. But the point is, in every piece of content, ask yourself what's next, and then gently suggest it to the reader. You don't want to hit them over the head with it. You don't want to be popping up every every fifth word with, hey, check out this other post. But make it part of the experience. Make that one blog post or that one piece of content part of an experience that is inherently bingeable. And then on YouTube, a genius way to do this, and a very easy way to do this, is by creating autoplay playlists. So gather your videos and build playlists around specific topics. So and it depends on what topics you create content on and what topics your personas are interested in. And remember those personas and remember that buyer's journey. And you can create your very own bingeable video experience on YouTube by creating those playlists. And then finally, strategy number 5 is take it to the next level. So figure out how you're going to reach that person that has maybe they're on reading their 4th blog post in one session on your site. Chances are they are ready for a next level of engagement with you. It's like that person that walks into the store. And of course, when you walk into a store, someone says, hi, may I help you? And then, but if the person's still looking around 15 or 20 minutes later, it's probably a good time to reapproach that person and engage them on a different level. And the same with your website. If someone has engaged with 3 or 4 of your pieces of content, then it might be time for a pop-up, promoting a specific white paper or a specific ebook, or depending where they are on the buyer's journey, it might be a good time to say, hey, are you ready for a webinar? Are you ready for a product demo? So get with your web team. Again, this is a little more on the technical side, but your web team, they know the technology, but you know what you're looking to do. So get with the men and women on your IT team, on your web team. Tell them what you're looking to accomplish, and then see what they can come up with. It might be as simple as a plugin. It might be something that requires a little more coding, but give them the opportunity to provide a solution for you. So those are my insights on how to create binge-worthy content. So to recap. And I'm scrolling here. So to recap, number 1, produce insanely good content. I know I don't need to tell you all that, but had to put it in there anyway. Number 2, get a handle on your content library. Number 3, personalize the experience. Number 4, leverage the Netflix next episode trick. And then number 5, when people are engaging or repeat engagers in your content, take it to the next level. If you have any questions or want to add to the conversation, or if you have found the secret sauce for creating bingeable content, I would love to hear from you. And feel free to tweet me over at @RachelParker. Now it's time for our content marketing tip of the week. If you've been following my videos, every Monday I put out a Marketing Mojo video. So if you've been following along, you'll recall that we spent the whole month of July talking about your mid-year strategy review and looking at the adjustments that are going to help ensure that we meet those goals that we set for ourselves back in January. So here's the deal. We're at the beginning of August. Once September hits in the States, that means when we come back from Labor Day, it is going to be a mad dash all the way to the end of the year. And so we've got just a few more months to make sure we achieve those goals that we set for ourselves back in January. So if you haven't already, I encourage you to pull out your strategy and review it with an eye towards the developments of the last few months. So what has happened? What has changed in the last few months that's going to affect how you approach your content marketing for the rest of the year? So look at your analytics. Look at what's been working well, what could use some improvement. Also, look at developments in your industry and your organization that affect your content and how you approach it. And then also look at any shifts that may have taken place in your target audience. If you're B2B, maybe there's something that's occurred in your audience's industry that you might want to look at how that affects your content. So set aside some time this month. I know for a lot of us, August is still kind of slow. People are taking those last-minute vacations and getting ready for back to school, and a lot of people are still taking days off. So for a lot of us, it's still a bit of a slow time. Set aside some time to review your strategy and make any necessary adjustments based on what has occurred in the first part of the year. And then, hey folks, fasten your seatbelts, because we are going to go full speed ahead, do exactly what we need to do to make sure we hit those goals that we set for ourselves, and we have between now and December to do it. Okay, campers, that is it for me today. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Content Marketing Podcast. If you like what you've heard today, please feel free to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play Music or via our RSS feed. And if you really like what you've heard, please leave us a quick review on iTunes. I would so appreciate it. Also, if you want to learn more about content marketing, you will definitely want to grab a copy of my book, The Content Marketing Coach, Everything You Need to Get in the Game and Win. That is available in book and Kindle format. To learn more about the book and to download a free chapter, visit contentmarketingcoachbook.com. As you know, I always like to leave you with a quote, and today's comes from John D. Rockefeller. He once said, quote, "The secret of success is to do the common thing uncommonly well," unquote. Again, this is Rachel Parker with Resonance Content Marketing. Thank you again for listening, and we will see you again next week. Take care.